Jack took the bomb remote control from his body. The chief of staff also noticed the column of smoke above the base from the car. He realized he had arrived a step too late. When they reached Jack's house, they saw bloodstains on the walls and the body of Jack's wife. Jack's 2 children were not there. It was clear that Danave had not honored his agreement with Jack. He had not spared Jack's family. As a friend, the chief of staff could not let the perpetrator go. He obtained some intelligence. That day, besides Danave, Barry, who had been exchanged on the bridge, had also sent men to Jack's house. This attack was purely Barry's revenge. Danave had only provided the explosive device. Before the chief of staff could arrive and report, the base leadership summoned him. They instructed him to focus on Danave and ignore Barry, saying Barry was a CIA matter. The chief of staff understood. They could agree to a hostage exchange because Barry was a CIA informant. The leadership could only acknowledge this. The chief of staff, furious, said, "Your informant killed soldiers in the base." The base leadership replied that they now needed Barry to help track Danave's supply lines, so he could not be harmed at this time. The chief of staff shouted that Barry had not only harmed soldiers but also spared none of his family. The leadership didn't know how to respond, and could only urge the chief of staff to leave immediately. After leaving, he informed Lise of everything that had happened. Lise quickly devised a plan. They could request permission from higher authorities to capture Danave, and on the way, detour to Barry's house to arrest him first before completing the mission. Approval for the chief of staff's operation came swiftly. They used drones to observe the sergeant major's convoy, but it went off course. CIA personnel alerted them that this was Barry's base. They hurriedly tried to call the chief of staff, but there was no answer. All the soldiers, under the chief of staff's command, had already stormed Barry's house. Although Barry had gunmen, their numbers were small. Faced with a line of elite soldiers led by the chief of staff, their resistance lasted only 3 minutes. Soon, the chief of staff led his team to the second floor. Seeing the soldiers, Barry showed no fear. He dragged Barry up, preparing to take him into custody. A crying sound came from the corner. It was Jack's daughter. The chief of staff spoke gently to the girl, telling her not to be afraid. He came face to face with Barry, who continued cursing him relentlessly. The chief of staff, enraged, could no longer control his hands. When Lise arrived, all he saw was Barry's body. He immediately realized the situation had become complicated and began devising a counterplan. Lise noted that the key to Barry's front door resembled a bomb remote. Barry had tried to detonate it, prompting the soldiers to shoot him dead. Lise then cut off the restraints on Barry's hands, telling the soldiers at the scene to remember the story they had prepared. Everyone then left the house. But could this really deceive the people at the base? If discovered, what kind of punishment would they face?